You know, Kenyans are very funny. I've seen people asking questions na wengine wanasema kwamba kwa nini gari ya George Ruto isichomwe? Kwa nini gari ya George Ruto isichomwe na baba yake ndio amesababisha haya mambo yote kutendeka?
Mtu anasema tuta. Iko na mjinga. Kwanza mjinga ni kuongea vituta. Tuta. Uniambie mjinga ni bana mwenyewe kusema. Ruto must go. 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 Ruto must
go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much, guys, for your great support. Now, fellow Kenyans, I've seen a question here. Some people were asking me this question. Actually, I've seen it even circulating all over the internet. Not people just asking me, but I've also seen it circulating all over the internet. That everybody knows that there is a problem with the fuel, and in fact, leo hakuna gari ambayo ilioperate. There is no matatu that operated anywhere, Nairobi, Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru. In fact, in Nakuru, some people were even shot dead by the rogue police officers because they were demonstrating. So this is the question that what is William Ruto's son, that is George Ruto, saying concerning the rise in fuel, yet is one of the Matatu owners, and how is he going to pay his workers because workers are normally paid after they've worked the whole day up to evening. What is he saying? Kasongo's son. That is the question. And I want us to talk about it this way. Let me just ask you a very simple question. Do you really think that George Ruto can be bothered with the rise in fuel and all that? Because George Ruto this is William Ruto's son. And he doesn't really depend on the money that is being made kwa matatu, because you know hawa ni watu ambao walishaiba pesa, so they don't care about anything. Sasa hata kama wewe hujafanya kazi, hata kama hujamfanyia kazi kwa siku, wewe utaangalia jinsi ambavyo utasurvive. You know, the people that are in problem ni wale wenye wanamfanyia kazi, si yeye ana shida. Don't joke with somebody who is owning how many matatus does this guy have? So inakuonesha, that one tells you that this guy doesn't really care. Hii mambo na hii biashara ya matatu aliingia tu, but does he care about it? Aangalia hiyo mambo na biashara ya matatu? No. There are several things that this guy is looking at. So hiyo mambo ya watu kuuliza ya kwamba what is he saying concerning matatus, concerning blah blah blah, I think kwake yeye hiyo ni kitu in fact he doesn't even think, kwake ni kama hata ajui kama kuna mgomo ya matatu. Kwa sababu zilale hapo zisilale hapo, yeye atakula na atakunywa na atalala na atavaa. That is why I normally say that these people that normally works for these leaders, you have to understand that these leaders don't even really give they can't give you that, like literally they don't care. Let me use that word. They don't care about your well-being. What they care about is what are you supposed to do to them? Yani kile ambacho unaangalia ni kile ambacho wewe unapaswa kuwafanyia. Alafu ukishawafanyia wao, biashara yako nao imeisha. Because now, okay, I want us to look at this thing this way. George Ruto has got workers wenye wanafanya kazi, driver, ma conductor, ma number is all that, sindio? Wenye wanafanya kazi kwa gari lake. And then leo hawajafanya kazi, kumaanisha hawatalipwa. Kuna pale ambapo George Ruto analia kwamba leo sijapata pesa fulani, sasa siwezi kufanya kitu fulani. Do you really think there is? with all the stolen money that they have? Do you really think that that he even cares? That he is even bothered about what's going on or what's happening? He doesn't. Literally, he doesn't really care about anything. That is what I can say. That this guy doesn't really care about anything. So wewe nyinyi mgome msigome, yes sumbukani, ana shida. So you see, that is it. The second story that I also want us to talk about is this issue of Kipchumba Murkomen. And I would like you to listen to Kipchumba Murkomen speaking, and then we discuss that statement in depth.
At that point in time, never protested against the government. So the question you should be asking yourself, why did they feel that it was okay to understand President Uhuru Kenyatta, but when it is President William Ruto, they should go to the streets? You should ask yourself, why did they not stop their vehicles just less than 4 years ago? And why is it that in the administration of President William Ruto, they have stopped their vehicles from coming to the streets? There must be something. There must be a certain level of profiling that applies to William Ruto that does not apply to President Uhuru Kenyatta. And the guess is as good as your guess is as good as mine. If you will give us credit for those who were opposed to the administration that time, you must give us credit for using constitutional means and using the floor of the House and giving alternative suggestions to how to handle the fuel crisis. We never organized one protest, no life was lost, no supermarket was looted, no person was targeted to be killed as a result of the higher fuel prices less than 5 years ago. So I am very proud of my record and the statements I made in the Senate just about 5 years ago, and I'm very proud of how President William Ruto handled his opposition to how government was running its affairs in the last 5 years. I wish current opposition would emulate him instead of organizing violence and so forth. And I am just asking the most simple thing. Please, the transport sector, the way you understood President Uhuru Kenyatta and never went on strike just less than 5 years ago, that is the same way you should understand President William Ruto because he's in office. Number two is that how can we ensure that in future protests do not lead to loss of life? It's just by ensuring that protests are protests. They are not criminal activities, acts of crime, looting, robbing people of their property, burning of property. As long as we stop, and I see you in the media, reporting that protesters, I saw one today, protesters in Naivasha burned 2 vehicles. Those are not protesters. Protests is constitutional. Protest is presupposed to be peaceful. Burning of 2 vehicles, the media should be able to profile the way it should be, to say criminals burn 2 vehicles in the name of protest. I wonder why media in our country does not really always give a proviso to such situations by saying there were protests, but today it was not protests, it was criminal activities that burned vehicles. Why are facts distorted? Why are facts distorted? And sometimes protesters were killed. Probably criminals who were looting were killed. They were not protesters. So let us characterize any peaceful protest will be protected in this country. And I don't think any one life will be lost in a situation where the protest is peaceful. So let it be protests, not criminal activities, and life will not be lost. The last thing I'll say is that who are these politicians we are talking about? Particularly that the former deputy president is on record inciting people who have a different opinion and telling people in his backyard that anybody who is having an alternative political opinion supporting President Ruto is a traitor, and the traitors must be punished. So the understanding of his supporters perhaps is that you must attack physically traitors, and he will be held personally responsible. And all other politicians who are engaging in these acts of violence will personally be held responsible. I see sometimes some of these politicians speaking about ICC oh, take this on ICC and so forth. I don't know if they know that they are making their bed now and they will lie in it. So it is important for every one of us to become aware of the act of their own acts, and we will take the necessary legal steps to bring all of them to face the law. I know even the banning of the UDF officers in Wote, in Makwe.
Now, that is Cabinet Secretary of Interior, that is Kipchumba Murkomen. You know, I'm surprised that hao watu bado wanalaumu Rigathi Gachagua kwa maandamano ya leo. And then you hear them bringing the story of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, that wakati Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, where fuel was 140, was it 148 or 145 or 150? Wakati Uhuru Kenyatta fuel ilipanda mpaka 150, if I'm not 150, 158, 148 if I'm not wrong. Alafu nasikia anasema ya kwamba kwa nini wakati huo magari hazikugoma? Sasa hivi ndio magari zinagoma. I want to explain something here. The reason as to why people didn't demonstrate during Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's time when fuel ilipanda is because Uhuru Kenyatta explained to people vividly what is happening. He explained. The problem that we have with this government, the current government, is things are happening and then they fail to explain to Kenyans what is going on. That is where the problem is coming from. You know, if you can fail to explain to us, we really want to know what is going on. But then you can't explain to us that, oh, this is what is happening, this is what has happened, and then this is what we are expecting, or this is what is going to happen next. People will demonstrate automatically. Watu wataenda kwa streets. Na uwezi ukaambia mtu kwamba asiende kwa street ku demonstrate. You can't. Demonstration is something, it's like you can't tell people, hey, don't demonstrate.
We have an economy and a country that is being run like a juakali. Why is the president so silent? The president should come out so loudly and save Kenyans. He is aware of it, and he is quiet in the State House when people are suffering.
They cannot bring their pride and arrogance to this house. We will deal with them. We will not entertain that kind of rudeness, that kind of indecency.
Our leadership has failed. There is nothing to hide.
We will carry your cross. Handshake government must be accountable to the people of Kenya for the things they did for the last 4 years.
It is on record, Honorable Speaker, and on Hansard, that this House actually voted to defeat the proposal by government to put VAT on fuel. But, Honorable Speaker, through veto powers that the President enjoys under Article 115 sub Article 4, Honorable Speaker, that was defeated because we could not raise the 2/3 majority, Honorable Speaker. And maybe we must begin to ask ourselves whether it is not time to amend that particular article of the Constitution to at least matters that touch on the people that we represent, Honorable Speaker, that the President cannot legislate. And if we are to defeat his memorandas, a simple majority should suffice, Honorable Speaker. In July of 2008, Honorable Speaker, when Honorable Kimunya was in the Kibaki regime, he knows this is the time that crude oil prices were at the highest in the history of the world, at $147 per barrel. Fuel in Kenya then was at 71 to 73 shillings. Today, Honorable Speaker, the cost per barrel is only 72 shillings, $72, while fuel is at 135 shillings in Nairobi, Honorable Speaker. We need to ask ourselves, as members are asking, and that's what the committee should inquire into, why is it that IPRA is even setting margins that oil marketers should enjoy, Honorable Speaker? We must get back to an area or a regime where competitive economy and a free market economy, Honorable Speaker, is operation, Honorable Speaker. The question of fuel levy, Honorable Speaker, on road maintenance, excise duty, VAT, Honorable Speaker, we must begin asking ourselves, isn't it time the committee asks the CS to suspend the operationalization of VAT on fuel, on excise duty, and probably, Honorable Speaker, through legislation to reduce That is for this House, Honorable Speaker, and that is why I take offense.
Very well.
Mr. Speaker, it is true that Kenyans are really overburdened. And by the way, all of us who have some background in economics and finance know very well that the moment you touch on energy costs, then you definitely...
So you see where the problem is not even about people going to the street or people not going there. The problem is you are failing to explain to Kenyans that this is what is happening. And that is why unapata kwamba majority of people normally complain that these things were happening during Uhuru's tenure. Why is it that we did demonstrate? People didn't go to the street because Uhuru Kenyatta explained to people. Uhuru Kenyatta kuacha watu kwa mataa. Uhuru Kenyatta kuacha watu wanateseka na yeye ameenda kujificha baka. No. He explained to people very well. What about right now? Unasikia John Mbadi jinsi ambavyo anarusha mdomo, jinsi ambavyo anazungumza, it's like, what is John Mbadi saying? What is wrong with this guy? So you're wondering what is wrong with John Mbadi? John Mbadi thinks that he's the only person who has been is the first person to own that office, because there is a way a leader is expected to express himself or to behave. So if you can't behave in a better way, if you can't behave very well, then a lot of things, then it's like kuna vitu mingi sana ambazo zipo ama ambazo watu wanapaswa kujua kuhusu matendo yako. The way you talk, the way you carry yourself, the way you explain yourself matters a lot. You understand? So I would like to know what you think at the comment section, fellow Kenyans, concerning this. Hii mambo ya George Ruto's gari ya George Ruto. Nimesikia mwingine akiuliza kwamba kwa nini gari ya George Ruto isichomwe? Kwa nini gari ya George Ruto isichomwe?